Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. I'm Reverend Dr. Darrell Watkins, the senior minister here at Sunshine Cathedral.
I am Reverend Dr. Robert Griffin, the executive minister. Faith and religion can be complicated for the LGBTQ plus community. Surveys show that evangelical faith is the justification for the greatest attacks on the LGBTQ plus community.
I am Reverend Kevin Tisdall, the Minister of Education. The Queer God Squad is going to explore our religious community. Let's explore the big news of the day and what it means to you.
This is live, and then we are available on demand. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform and social media. At Sunshine Cathedral, we are here to tell you that you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Queer from insult to superpower, the evolution of a word. Peter Knegt says, quote, "Queer is not a bad word. It's our unifying path forward," end quote. He says that being loudly and visibly queer has never felt more dangerous or more necessary. In his column written for CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Company, Peter Knegt acknowledges that some people have a complicated relationship with the word queer. He writes, and I quote, "If you care about the well-being of all LGBTQ people, embracing queer and all that it stands for has never felt more necessary, because leaning into it allows us to both be free from the expectations of others and to unify as a force of truly authentic individuals. And these things all seem crucial in battling the full-fledged war that is currently raging against the lives and livelihoods of LGBTQ people," end quote. He explains that activists and academics of the late 1980s reclaimed queer as a bold and political radically alternative to what they viewed as the assimilationist movement. Over time, it evolved into an inclusive term that encompasses a wide range of non-normative sexual and gender identities. With the word queer, everyone is invited. How you choose to embrace that invitation is entirely up to you. By owning that identity, Peter found freedom in everything from how he presents himself to caring less about what mainstream society, the straight or gay version, thought of him. Clearly, the Queer God Squad is comfortable with the word queer. And today, we'll discuss why.
A queer way to say it. Queer.
I'm a queer duck. Okay. What?
I thought it
Queer
was
duck?
perfect.
I am still amazed at all my many years of living when I first heard the word queer, that even when I heard it for the very first, it didn't faze me. It's like, oh, that probably you meant that as an insult, but I'm not insulted by it. And I don't know why I'm not insulted by it, but it's because of who I am. And then I wasn't until later I thought, oh, queer is not something that you want to be called, because that's kind of a shame thing. That's a bad thing. That's not who you really want to be, and you shouldn't be that out there in front of everybody else. But I love how, and I'm going to say right now for young folks, younger than I, who have really owned the word queer. It is an identity. It's a part of who they are. It's a part of our queer politics, social part of who we are and who we live by. And I love the fact that as we look at how we own this in this particular time that we're in right now, where everything has been attacked, from this to that, the word queer and all that it represents and all people that are represented by it are the number ones that are being attacked by so many political influences that want to be political influencers in our world today. And not just politics, but also the church. When you bring religion into attacking the queer community as well. But that queer community, it's that last stones that the builders built and used in building the foundation. And I think that we are part of that queer community, the queer nation, if you will, that still are willing to visibly and loudly stand up and proclaim, I'm queer, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, so get used to it.
It's true. I came out in the early days of Queer Nation and ACT UP, so I just thought that's the way it was supposed to be. But here's my observation about, I mean, you like it or you don't, and that's fine. We all have our preferences. But the people who are almost militantly against it, they tend to be of a certain age, or older, you know, a cohort. And it seems that there's something unhealed. Because if you and your buddies, you know, you present as male, you identify as male, but you and your buddies, well, girl this and girl that, okay, it's not just any word that isn't heteronormative that bothers you. Or if you will be, you know, sissy please, or this fag, or, you know, all these camp language that we might have amongst ourselves. If those do not trigger you, what is it about queer? Because it isn't that someone is saying something other than, it's not just that someone's calling you out of your name, because you've made a life of that, the rest of your life, of calling yourself and your dearest out of your given name. A lot of us even choose names, maybe drag names, or change legally our names, or whatever, or take our spouse's last name when we marry or whatever. So it's not being called out of your name. There's something else, and I think it is unhealed. It's that which is unhealed in some of us. That is not a charge, because you're not guilty for being unhealed. But it does show that there is a lack of healing in some of us. But we're going to have to, we can't force our own healing. We can cooperate with it, we can tend to it, but we can't force it. But we can allow other people to have that. And so you can say, don't call me that, I don't like that, fine. But don't campaign against it, because a lot of times we'll say, especially in churches, we need younger people. We will need younger people, but don't say queer. Well, then you've just said everyone under the age of 40 who identifies as queer isn't welcome here. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say, I want younger people, but we can only sing out of the 1928 hymnal. Or we want younger people here, but what's with all these screens and all these images? I just want to hear the sermon. You can't say, I want this world, but don't change the old world. Because what the old world's going to get is the old world. Now, this is a hard and fast rule. Don't go and jump on any fad. But you can be authentically evolving, moving forward, doing some things that other people are doing, some things that are just you, keeping some old things. As long as it's authentically new and it's living and it's evolving, I think that's what people want, is authenticity. Well, that's also the power of the word queer. Queer is being authentically unique. Like, you have your unique place in the world, and if it's not within the norms, then it's queer. And to acclaim that is to celebrate it. A theologian that I'm working with these days is Dr. Jeff Hood. And he wrote a book called The Courage to be Queer. Now, I'm not asking him, but based on his wife and children, I'm guessing he's straight. Or at least bi, I don't know. I haven't asked him. But because theologically he finds queer so compelling, he identifies theologically as queer. Because he says theologically, what you're doing is you are identifying with the queer, the authentic, the different, the unique. And for him, those are definitions of God. Those are understandings of God. So for him, the queer, capital Q, is his language for God.
Wow.
And I've always said that for me, it means holy. Now I'm starting to think it might mean even more than that. It might mean the source of holiness. But that queer means different, holy means different. Queer means special, holy means special. Queer is unlike the norm. Holy is unlike the norm. Unlike the secular, unlike the way everyone else is. That for me, holy and queer are synonymous. And I'm almost there to where holy, queer and God are synonymous. But I certainly know for most of my life, just for me as an identity and as a community, it has been very empowering for me. It's not for everybody, and that's fine. But if it's not for you, let it just not be for you. Don't try to block it from being, because it's giving life to some people. It's giving power to some people. And it's giving identity to some people who they didn't fit in. Gay didn't say who they were. And bi didn't say who they were, and non-binary, and like, they just haven't found a place. And until they work it out, queer covers it. And it gives them identity and it gives them community. Let them have it.
I am a black queer male.
I didn't know that last one.
Yeah, I identify he, him.
Girl.
Now, when I was growing up a long time ago, there were words that were used against black folk that were extremely negative. those kind of words, I don't think you can redeem. There is a word that simply cannot be redeemed, but we went from that word to colored, to Negro, to African American, and I settled on black as a personal preference. And my husband insists that if someone says African American, they say African American, not Afro American, because he says I am not a hairdo. So words do mean something. So I remember I'll be 69 years old in a couple of weeks.
Oh, in a couple of weeks.
In a couple of weeks. I remember as a 12, maybe a tween, maybe 13, and I screamed out at somebody, "You faggot, you!" My mother heard me. So my mother says, "Kevin," "Yeah, Ma." "Get the dictionary. Look up the word faggot. What does it mean?" And I said, "Faggot. Oh, piece of driftwood, depending on where you are. In the United Kingdom, a fag is a cigarette." So it has its own meaning. But that word was used negatively. I don't remember a single time that I heard queer used in our community as a negative. Queer in our community has always defined us as being different from the rest, but not worse than the rest. We are special in our own way.
That is actually a powerful point.
Yeah.
Is that when we are saying it, and it's never been negative.
Exactly.
So back to the unhealed part, that we aren't healed enough from needing their approval, because anytime it was used ugly, it was from them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so that when we use it bothers us, means that we have not healed from them. We still need their approval,
Yeah.
or we want to be part of them. Oh my God, I just learned something there. Write that down, someone.
That's what turning 69 will give you.
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
And 69 is a good year. No, that was it. Words mean something, and we have to understand that when we use certain words, we're using it for a specific reason. And reclaiming words is, to me, the most important thing, which is why with some young black people, I don't cringe when they use a certain word. I just explain to them that that word has 400 years of hatred around it. So think about what you're doing, and if it's comfortable for you, I don't know that I can tell them they can't.
Yeah.
Well, you can always invoke Maya Angelou, not in my presence.
Not in my presence, yeah.
Not in my presence.
Yeah.
And I hear people use it like funny, like joking within themselves. Not nobody who looks like me can ever. I'll stand on. But peers, and they'll jokingly and non-insultingly, and they laugh. Yeah. I'm not in on that, so who am I to even comment? You know what I mean? Like I'm not experiencing what they're experiencing. So I will cringe because of my background and because of how I grew up. But I don't know what they're getting out of that. I don't know that. And I'm certainly not the one to lecture, you know.
And I think it still is a part of taking the ugliness out of the word and putting a new spin on the word. And I don't know that I know that I don't have the right to tell them they cannot.
No.
Mr. Knegt, if you notice when this picture came up, young guy, young guy. He lays out a very good argument, but look at him. He doesn't look like me.
Yeah. Right.
He doesn't look like me at this table.
Yeah, there he is.
I'm like, isn't he wise to be in the 8th grade? He is.
In his movies and everything else.
Yeah.
But I mean, he also reminded me. I'm reading some stuff online about it. Like, queer is not a bad word.
No.
And that's the thing. I think a lot of people think, of certain peers and things like, queer is not a bad word. And I like how it says that the word queer is inviting to everyone. Everyone is invited when you use the word
And
queer.
what you do with the invitation
is up to you.
That was genius.
If you want to identify as I'm gay, but I'm invited to the queer party, go for it. I'm lesbian, I'm invited to the queer party. Whatever part of the letter you want to pull out, you're still invited to the queer party.
And I don't know that I can count it on both hands yet, but several people have approached me over the years because of this discussion, saying that they are a straight person, but they've never felt like they had a community until they became part of the queer community.
Interesting.
And the only reason they don't call themselves queer is because they don't know that they're allowed. Right? But I know queer straight people, that's the plus.
Yeah.
That's one of the A's, the allies. It's part of the queer community. And he also says, Knegt says completely accurately that this came out of academic work. Well, that's the work we use at the Sunshine Cathedral. We were all seminary educated. A lot of us had social sciences and behavioral sciences backgrounds before that. And so we come out of out of that. So queer hermeneutics, a queer reading of the Bible, bringing our queerness to the text, finding ourselves in the text, and queer theology, a theology from the margins, affirming all kinds of difference and reading against the norms, especially the norms that have been used to oppress people, minorities. That's our whole shtick. Mm-hmm. So queer theology and queer hermeneutics, that's our bread and butter. So you can cringe at the word if you want to, but if you're here, you're going to benefit from the work of queer theology and queer hermeneutics.
Yeah. And if the word don't fit, don't wear it.
Right.
You know?
Because there's a lot of words.
Yeah.
Under the queer umbrella, there's a lot of words.
Yeah.
And so if pan is all you are, just be pan. But we're going to know that you're part of our queer community.
Amen.
Well, that's today with the Queer God Squad. We want to thank you for joining us. We're here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and discuss what our LGBTQ plus community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's largest progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. And we are all in this together. Remember that.
You are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Until the next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Goodbye.